Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Divyanka and I'm a doctor of pharmacy here in the US. On this channel, I strive to provide both you and I resources to help live our best and most productive life. For some of you OGs who have been watching my videos for a while, or if you've stumbled across my videos, you'll notice that this room looks a little familiar. So I'm not filming in my apartment anymore. I actually came back home for a little bit and am filming where this channel started. It's definitely giving me nostalgic feels. The first video to hit 10K views on the channel was actually filmed in this room as well. So that's all to say, I'm home, I'm filming, I'm back. Let's get to it. Alright, so it is graduation season, and with graduation comes interviewing. This time last year, I was interviewing as well, and I hope that these tips help those of you out there that are interviewing right now. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how to make that best impression in an interview to then, of course, proceed with the process and hopefully land the job. Now, these tips are not regarding the technical aspect of things. We're really going to be talking about that overall impression and what little things kind of help along the way. My first tip is don't give that other person any reason to not hire you. You're probably like, yeah, isn't that the point? Yes, of course. But let me tell you what I mean. Here, I'm really talking about those little things that may go unnoticed. Whether it's your attire, whether it's your etiquette, whether it's your language, we all know kind of how to act in an interview. We know we have to be professional, all of those little things. But again, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure you kind of do every step of that process, even if you don't think it matters. So I know right now, we're doing a lot of virtual interviews. I recently got a new job and the whole process was virtual. And whether you're going through the interview process in person or virtually, there can be little things like timeliness, if you're virtual Wi-Fi, again, overall etiquette, demeanor, attire, all of those little things. Just make sure you go out of your way to make sure a good impression is made of you regarding those things and every other little aspect. With those things, you basically don't want them to get noticed. For instance, you don't necessarily have to wear your best attire, but don't wear something that's really gonna catch their attention and drive away from the focus of the interview. If you're wearing something that's too bold or just too much is going on, again, that can divert your interviewer's attention and just distract from the interview itself. Now, this isn't to say that they're going to ding you if you have Wi-Fi issues or something like that, but just subconsciously as humans, if a lot of those distractions kind of come up, it naturally turns you off to that other person. Again, it has nothing to do with your aptitude. It has nothing to do with the technical aspects of the interview or the role, but it's just that general impression that's set. And again, the more distractions, the more negative of an overall impact that can have. My next tip is to be confident. A lot of times we're going into an interview and we really want that position. Because we really want that position, it makes us really nervous because we know we have to do a good job. We know we have to perform well. And because we want that outcome, we naturally get nervous. Now, for most people, nervousness translates to not being confident. And that's what I'm trying to get at. When you're in an interview, the people on the other side don't know you. They don't know anything about you except the piece of paper in front of you. Now, this could either be a really good thing or a really bad thing. I'm saying use it as a good thing. They don't know your personality. If you're shy, great, they don't know that. If you're an introvert, again, they don't know that. So regardless of how nervous you feel or your normal, natural personality, go into interviews confidently. Now, the prep for being confident can be different for everyone. Maybe you need to listen to your favorite song. Maybe you need to look over your interview prep list. Whatever you need to do to make yourself appear confident going into interviews, do that. Again, they don't know you. So go in acting like you know who you are, you know why you're there, you know why you're a good fit for this role, and then let them do the rest. Again, we're talking about those subconscious messages here, and confidence will take you so far in an interview. If you think about it and you're like, hey, I always get nervous, just think about this. You're in an interview and you want to show your best self. So why would you let your insecurities take over the best of you in this moment? This is absolutely not the moment to let your insecurities kind of come in and just take over. Put that in your head. You know you're there for a reason. If you're at the interview stage, you've at least gotten past a resume screen and usually an HR interview. So know your worth and be self-aware. Know where your gaps are, but again, come in with a confident attitude. This doesn't mean you know everything. I have a lot to learn, and I say that in interviews. I highlight what I'm good at, like you're supposed to in an interview, but I also show that I'm a little self-aware and confident that I don't know things. And again, being able to say that and being like, hey, I don't know XYZ, but I want to learn XYZ, and this is why this role can help me do that, is again a very strong, self-aware, and confident message. The last thing I want to say about confidence is that it's part of the package. You have to realize that, okay, if they've read your resume and they love it, great, but you have to show them what's on your resume. If your resume states all of these great things and you come in with no confidence and not showing what you're actually worth, then it seems like whatever's on that resume is just not true. Now, I know this isn't the case for a lot of us, and nervousness again gets the most of us where we're not able to act and be our best self in an interview, but you really have to try to take that out of your head. You have to see it as an extension of your resume. Your whole profile is being looked at and judged. You've spent hours at school, you've spent hours getting experience, you've spent hours working on your resume. Don't butcher it when it comes to the interview. Bring out that confidence and show your best self. My next tip is to be positive. Now again, you're probably like, duh. But no, actually sit and realize this. Why I say this is because no one wants to work with anyone who has a negative or a bad attitude, or someone who complains. We don't want to work with someone who always is just complaining about something or the other. So now, because we don't want to work with a person like that, make sure you're not that person in an interview. Again, if you're tired, if you're a little nervous, if things like that kind of creep in to your interview and you're not able to be a little positive, confident, and showing your best self, then to the other person who doesn't know you, it's gonna seem like, oh, this person just, has a bad attitude or seems to complain a lot. So again, I know we know to be positive overall and to smile and to do those things, but when you're prepping for an interview, actually think about it like that. You don't wanna come off as a negative person. Don't complain about anything, especially a previous work experience, and be positive in nature in regards to everything. So body language, your response to questions, the questions you ask, and how you start and end the interview. Again, these are all those little components that add up to the bigger picture, and it is incredibly important to keep these in mind. My next tip is to be direct and succinct. When you're giving an answer or when you're saying something in an interview, make sure you're being extremely direct as to what the whole point is. You don't have more than 30 minutes usually for an interview, and you've got a lot of ground to cover. You don't have time to waste, and neither does your interviewer. So when you're talking or when you're responding to a question, make sure you're not going off on tangents or bunny trails. Answer the question directly, and yes, if you need some supportive information, some background history to actually get your point across, then please be my guest and say it. But again, make sure that you're truly focusing on the question and your answer and making sure what you're intending to get across is actually getting across. When you're going to be intentional about being direct and succinct about your answers and what you're saying to your interviewer, you're also going to be ensuring that they're actually hearing what you want them to hear. Now I'm going to pause there. Did you get that? Let me say it again. If you give 10 sentences back in response to a question, you may not be too sure if the person on the other side actually heard your whole response. If you're kind of going off on a tangent, it's very easy to zone out in an interview. That's exactly what you don't want to do. So when you have a 1 to 2 sentence, short, succinct, direct answer to a question, you know that the interviewer heard you. So this is overall the best way, the best strategy to, again, highlight what you want them to know. Again, this takes a lot of brain work, and you kind of have to sit and really realize, okay, what points do I want to highlight, and then bring them into these direct and succinct answers, and boom, that's it. You know that they heard you. If that's not what they like, that's on them, but you gave them what you think is the best thing. If you go off on a tangent, you can't be sure that they actually got what you intended for them to get. Plus, there's already so many moving parts to an interview. All of these little distractions, all of the logistics of it, don't add to that. Don't add to the chaos with your words. Show that even though things can be chaotic, you think straight and you can speak straight. Now, in an interview, from personal experience, I feel like I ramble the most when I don't really know how to answer the question. So to combat that, I really encourage everyone to kind of take a step back when a question is asked of you in an interview and just think about it for 5 to 10 seconds and really formulate that answer. There's absolutely no problem in letting the interviewer know, hey, just give me a moment, I want to get my thoughts together, and then respond with your answer. That almost is better because it shows that you're self-aware. You need a second to think, but you're not just going to ramble on and just say something that might make the interviewer happy. You're actually thinking about your response, and then if you come out with a direct and succinct response, then that of course brings it full circle and makes your whole profile look great. Now, my last tip in how to create a great impression in an interview is to actually take the time to listen. I am so guilty of this. It's extremely easy to be sitting in an interview and there's a million things going through your head. You want the role, you're trying to remember who this person is, you're trying to remember the answers to your questions. Something's going on in the back that you don't want to distract you. Your hair's bothering you, your blazer's bothering you. A lot's going on, and it's really easy to just zone out when the other person is talking to you. I think it's kind of natural to do that in an interview because I think we think that, this interview is so that this person can ask me questions, but you have to get out of that headspace. In an interview, usually the other person will explain what the role is, how the company is, what the team structure is, some kind of background information. And again, it's really easy to zone out at those times, but I really encourage you to try to be very aware of not doing that. Now, the first reason to intentionally listen in an interview is, of course, because the information they're saying about the role, about the company, about the structure of the team is actually relevant to you. You have to realize that if you get this position, that information is really important to you. So it only makes sense to actually listen. But secondly, and more importantly, I think it's so important to listen because when you do that, it's really easy to pull those little things into the conversation again. And that's something that you really do want to do. It's a huge bonus tip, honestly. If you can take something that the other person has said and incorporate it into something you say later on in the interview, it shows that other person that you're actually listening. And that goes so far. I can say this with a guarantee, both from being the person who has done that and being the receiver of that, both in an interview and just generally. When it's very evident that someone has actually listened to what I have said, it is so impressive. I'm automatically, naturally just impressed. Because us as humans, we don't feel like anything we say is important. And if you give that other person that importance and show them that, hey, you're worth my time and I actually listened to you and therefore I'm going to now incorporate it into my answer and tell you, that sends a huge message. Now, this doesn't have to be as magnanimous as you might think. It can be a simple mention of something. So being like, hey, earlier you were talking about the role and you mentioned XYZ. That really caught my eye because, in the past, I've had a little flavor of that, but not fully, and I really enjoyed it when I did. So you mentioning that that's a huge part of this role really got me excited. Something as simple as that, showing them that you're listening, showing them that you're not only listening, but you're kind of critically thinking about what they're saying. Is that ideal for you? Is it not? Those types of things, again, really send a very strong message. So I didn't put this as an extra tip, but it really is. Make sure you're kind of pulling things from conversation and mentioning them because, again, it's going to go so far. I hope overall those tips were really helpful for you guys. I know interviewing and interview season can be extremely tough. I recently got a new job and I was interviewing while, of course, working full-time, which was a new experience for me and honestly incredibly challenging. So I completely understand. I've interviewed and gone through the job search process twice now during this pandemic. So if anyone understands your struggles, I do. But really just take a step back, think about why you're actually there, what you actually want, and just truly try to portray all of your best qualities in that interview, and I promise the rest will follow. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm and makes other people realize that this content might be helpful. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope this was helpful, and as always, you guys will see me in the next one.